Shaky, I really want to talk to you about the actual shocking state of the game. Like, what
Okay.
exactly, is your opinion on, where the game's at? Like, in terms of the end
Okay.
game, there's been a lot of controversial changes in the last couple months, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't even been like streaming or uploading or talking about anything of the game recently.
Yeah.
But I did want to address it in like one giant video later on.
I'll
And
look
I
forward to
think
it, man.
I think what like needs to be said is that I don't think BDO understands what target audience they want to appease because they're randomly appeasing random stuff right now. So obviously like the current GVG changes that happened, it was mainly for new players.
Yeah.
And I have a few friends in Korea that I speak to as well. I was speaking with a guy named SSM, and he was surprised to see that they ported the GVG changes worldwide to the game, right?
Hmm.
And as someone who PvPs a lot in this game, it's like literally all I do. All I do in this game is PvP, and for that I got punished in the game. I didn't get to get much gear because all I do is PvP for the most part.
Yeah.
And me playing from other MMOs, I think that's really backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Most MMOs, you're very much rewarded for PvPing, and it's a
Sure.
viable route to play the game. And the problem with BDO, with the way PvP was set up, is that it was piss poor in design. So, for example, like I was never in disagreement with turning off the GVGs, right? But there was some context to it. Like, I'm okay with them not forcing PvP if there was actual PvP content in the game. The problem
Sure.
was with BDO was that the PvP GVGs, that was the content of BDO. That was the literal only content of the game. So now they take it out, and then now there's nothing to like do as a PvPer.
Well,
It's
let's
it's it's poor to say that griefing was the content, right? But
sure.
that's BDO's fault for not actually putting in tangible PvP content, right? You
Well,
play WoW, you
let's
play RuneScape, you play a bunch of other games in terms of PvP. They're actually
let's
going to
just
reward you for PvPing, and
yeah,
you're
let's
not
just
forced to
clear it up,
PvP.
or
Yeah.
let's just get perspective first. Guys, Shaky's favorite thing to do and his main focus in the game is open world PvP. I know there are node wars and red battlefield and stuff like that, but those are all time based at specific time, and a lot of those have caps and stuff. So you know the game has a lot of diversity in its PvP, how you build your character, the gear, and the crystals and everything. When you go into the cap setting, it all funnels into just one meta. And, I don't think that's indicative of what BDO is truly about. The open world PvP, where we are ourselves, as much as I like being under gear and fighting someone who's like going to smash me with like 50 more gear score, I think the open world PvP is where we're ourselves. Our characters are their selves. They're not affected by caps or anything. And that's what was really the signature of BDO's PvP for a long time. I just wanted to clear that up. I know there are other forms of GVG, I mean, not GVG, other forms of PvP in the game, but this was one of the big defining factors for a lot of players.
Yeah, the problem with PvP is that's not impactful in the game. Like, okay, for example, like with Land of Morning Light, we got the gourds, right?
Yeah,
Then now that people are popping elixir rotations and like a lot of endgame PvP. So I mean, at this point, people are spending literally a bill an hour just to PvP. So the node war rewards don't offer enough rewards, and neither do Siege at this point. You're literally wasting more money than you're putting into grinding. So grinding has just become or PvPing becoming a permanent silver sink, right? Then on the flip side, they remove GVG, so that content's gone. I'm not saying to bring it back because I disagree with um, forcing PvP on people, right? I
sure,
think forcing PvP on people is just dog shit mechanic. Like it should have never been a thing in the game.
sure.
It should have never been in the game because that's why the community is where it's at. You know what I'm saying? We're here
Yeah,
because we forced PvP, and now like it's really weird that PvEers they view PvPers in BDO as like evil people. It makes no sense. Like
yeah.
if you PvP in BDO, like they literally act like you've killed their unborn child. Even if you do it on Arsha, right? You go to Arsha, you'll
They'll be
flag on,
insulted. Yeah,
you'll flag on someone grinding, and he was like, "Why?"
yeah.
And
And the
then
thing is, like,
most of the Reddit like feedback and forum feedback was just go to Arsha.
yeah, yeah,
But it's been known for a very long time that Arsha is nothing but a drop rate server. and it is not, and by design, a PvP server, because by design, I'm going to Arsha to grind with a drop rate, and then to top that off, that drop rate is given almost every week, if not doubled, with events.
Yeah. The thing is, in this game,
So
we don't have that, you know, our time when we're PvPing isn't that well respected, because not only are you losing money, you are busting consumables, you're going negative in silver, and there's no reward of progression through PvP. Like, I wanted to grind out Arena of Solaire because I like the 3v3 format, and yeah, sure, it's not perfect and there's some issues with it, but it was fun to do. But every hour I spent doing AOS, and that was another hour that I wasn't grinding and progressing my main gear, where
yeah,
uncapped
exactly.
content, uncapped PvP, that's what I viewed as the pinnacle of the game. If you can ignore all of that and say, I don't ever care about getting to hard cap, I don't care about open world PvP, then sure, it doesn't, you don't have to grind those hundreds of hours and you can go do whatever you want. But for a lot of players, including myself, I do view that as the pinnacle. I do want to be really strong in the open world and be geared and be able to stand toe to toe, or at least fight against people without getting one tapped. So whenever I played any of the other formats they offered, it always felt like I'm still losing out. Even if I'm going to a node war and we won, that's still less money than me just grinding that time I spent doing the node war. So it's
Yeah,
like the system itself. I feel like they really should have invested their time and resource instead into like War of Roses, because I don't know how much time they spent developing that, into like a proper system where we can earn silver and progress through the game through PvP.
yeah. I
Uh,
think I think that's like the thing with BDO. It's actually a BDO problem, because obviously BDO's intention is to grow the game, and that's
of
probably why they
course.
focus on new players, right? Because pretty much BDO's income is from new players for the most part. It's just new players coming in. But the problem is they don't stick, right? And I
Yeah,
feel like why they don't stick to the game is because when you get to the core of the game, I think this is
sure.
where most people quit, like the mid to late game.
Right.
Once I think people mostly start quitting when the gains start to become like 20, 30 bill, right? That
Yeah,
can
yeah,
seem very overwhelming for a new player.
sure.
If you're someone like a veteran, to me, our gains are like 100 bill plus. To us, it's like, all right, man, we'll just grind for 3, 4 weeks and we'll get it, right?
Yeah,
That's just not appeasable to a casual, and casuals are going to be the main bread and butter of any game, any
right.
player base. So when we're looking at BDO at like the end of it all, it's just solo grinding, and then to label, it's kind of like to label it as an MMORPG for the most part. How are you labeling BDO as an MMORPG now? Because it's all solo content. Group content is less money, right? At this point, and
Sure.
now we have killed player-to-player interaction by turning off GVGs.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also why I'm against Marnie changes now. On top of that, they've added the Marnie changes, which is 12 hours of instance content. Minus the GVG change, let's talk about the
Mm-hmm.
Marnie change now, right?
Yeah,
Now
that
we have
one
completely
thing.
isolated MMOs. Now it's like there is no player to play interaction. Someone shows up, I'm gonna just go in my Marnie realm. There's no more
Yeah,
player to play interaction. When
it's
we all
like
play MMORPGs to interact with other people, that's the whole point. It's supposed
they,
to be
they
a
went into
social
that extreme,
experience.
man. Like,
Yeah.
as you said, there were multiple changes there, which
Mm-hmm.
they could have just taken it step by step and saw how that developed. But I feel like I know this is a bit of a, you know, opinion, like very opinionated from me, but I feel like they spent a lot of money in marketing before Land of the Morning Light came out. They saw a huge influx of players, and after a couple months, they all left. I think they panicked and just rolled out all the changes and went nuclear on it, instead of like seeing that growth and influx of players and already knowing from all the other times we've gotten an influx of players before that we know exactly why they're going to quit in a month or two, that they could have just rolled these out step at a time and saw if it had a positive impact or not, because even just one of those changes would have been enough. Like, you didn't need to go with the karma, the GVG, and the Marnie. Just one of those could have been enough to make a positive impact while not
Yeah.
gutting the entire open world situation.
Yeah, because now it's like if you're someone who enjoys multiplayer games, BDO doesn't really feel like a multiplayer game anymore. That was
Yeah.
my issue with Marnie Realm change. I think the Marnie Realm change is great for someone that just wants to solo grind.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just not most of MMO players,
Hmm.
unfortunately to say, right?
Yeah. If we
Unfortunately, most MMO players are playing for the group experience and social experience, which BDO isn't offering at all. Like, period.
even back in the day though, like Sawsons used to be a place we'd go with a group, and people wanted to go to Sawsons and wanted to group up and would look for other players to group with. Like, now playing with a party is less money per hour than solo grinding. That's just where it's at. I think like party grinding should be, you know, 20-30% more silver than solo grinding, and there should be more spots with party oriented,
I think
oriented grind spots.
the game from release to now is like there's a lot of differences, right?
Very different. Yeah,
It's
it's a
very different
different game.
because they've killed a lot of things recently. It's not even just like the whole solo group aspect part, but even like your gear now. What does having high gear mean at this
Right.
point, right? All that means now is that if you fight someone in Arsha, you get to gear check them. But like, guess what? Most node wars are capped. Even your grind areas are
Yeah.
getting capped.
Even some
Everything is
sieges.
capped. Why are we
Yeah.
grinding if everything is capped? This
Yeah.
is what
Even
I want to know
sieges.
personally.
Yeah, I was surprised they even went the route of capping sieges, because that's like
Yeah,
the pinnacle
and
of
now we
their
have
open
another
world
problem
experience.
and now we have another problem with caps, right? The problem with
Sure.
caps now in the PvP sense of things is that everything works differently.
Oh yeah.
T1s have different class metas. T2s have different class metas.
Yep.
T3s have different class metas. And now, because they've added caps to grind spots, we're seeing it in grind spots now, right?
Yeah.
I never expected to see Succession Nova pull insane trash at Dekia Thornwood, right?
Strega represent. But yeah,
I was
absolutely.
I was just like, what's going on, right? So now they're in a debacle of they can't balance anything no matter what anymore because of caps.
And for people wondering, if you guys ever go into AOS, there are certain classes which perform a lot better in AOS than outside. Like for example, a Suck Mystic,
Yeah.
she can one combo someone in AOS, where other classes aren't able to do that. Even if you're the best player in that class, you might get them down to like 75% HP, but your class just doesn't have the power. But in open world, you might be one tapping and one comboing even the most geared up players. It's just that in those AP ranges, the way certain classes perform is just different, just based on their kit, their mechanics and such. So in the tier low tier node war situation, like a witch and wizard isn't going to be like blasting people as hard as being a caster in an uncapped situation. So it's just different how those classes interact with the stats and stuff.
I feel like what they should do is just if they want to do capped content, I think capped content is good for people that are new to the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if they're gonna do any capped content, just do one for seasonal caps, and then do one for like maybe a little bit like the mid game, maybe like 630, 650 gear score caps,
Mm-hmm.
and then just leave the rest uncapped, right? Now the second problem with the caps is that for the uncapped content and then the capped content, right? What's
Sure.
really weird is that the early capped content for Node Wars, for example, it appeases to small and bigger groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the uncapped content is only appeasing to large groups.
Right.
I think this is another problem. Like, I don't think BDO knows where its target audience is right now. Is a big issue.
Right.
So on one end, they're appeasing to small groups and then big groups on the lower end. But then towards the end game end, you're not doing a T5, war unless
Mm-hmm.
you have a load of people to play with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like at least 70 people to
Right.
fill the roster there. Yeah.
So I think what BDO does very good is the solo grinding. Solo grinding in Marni realms, it's like solo player heaven right now. People are
Right.
gonna love the game if they're that. I think
Until
what
they get to
BDO
the
should
point.
do, yeah, pretty
Until a
much.
certain point. But
I think what
one
BDO should
thing.
do is stop giving us new classes, stop giving us more solo grind spots. Let's let's fill up the game to be an MMO now, right?
Right.
Group content, more dungeons, more raids, guild content. And then I think they should start changing the PvP side of the game too. Let's actually make PvP a rewarding activity that players can do if
Absolutely.
that's what they want to do. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. No, 100%, man. And just a quick
And
note, I know in the
I know you're gonna agree with this. Life skills need to get a whole revamp, all of it.
they do need a lot of work. But just a quick note, guys, for those of you who don't know how caps work, if you go into your world map and you click the Node War information button on the top right, normally you're defaulted at the general. If you click the top right here and you hit the node war information and hover over one of these nodes, you'll see stat limits. And you'll see on the left side it says tier 2, the number of participants, and then on the stat limit on the side it'll show you the caps for each stat. And it's really easy to hit these caps for a lot of these. Even as Pentuvala, you'll be able to come and hit this. You see the AP limit? That's not actually your sheet AP, but the overall AP number in your stats page. Combined with the extra human damage and such. So even as Pentuvala, you'll be able to hit a lot of these caps pretty easily. Like even tier 4 nodes are supposed to be, the second highest nodes, but even these caps are super easy to reach.
Those caps are
So
super low. Yeah.
yeah, they are very low. So it's
Now, what's interesting is too, like people probably wondered, okay, well, things are getting equal. Why are the same top guilds dominating the caps wars too, right? Because you're still getting gear checked. Why? HP's uncapped.
yep. And
I
you can
can I
higher
can
stats you
stack.
have,
Yeah.
you can exchange your gear to, give you other bonuses like, easy ones to get are like the Kaya's necklaces for the percentage back attack damage, the Chimera earrings, and you're able to do more of those swaps. And like I wear a Zula accessory 3 set for that HP. So you're able to pump your HP even higher. And those endgame players are the ones who usually run the flasks and stuff, or the oh my god, elixir rotation and stuff. So they're able to afford that because they make a lot more money and they're a lot more experienced in the game at getting those, and it still gives them an advantage even if it's in a cap situation. But this is a lower barrier of entry. I mean, it does get people into it, but why do we need all the way up till tier 4 to be such a low cap? Like, it doesn't make sense why it's all accessible. Why not just tier 1, 2, and 3 be for the lower end and then scale it up higher? But yeah.
I'll send you a picture of the elixirs too. This is like my stash, for example. This is
Sure.
not accessible to anyone that doesn't at least grind orcs, I would say. Unless you're grinding at least orcs, it's not accessible. And if you grind orcs, there's no reason to like use elixir rotation either, right?
Yeah. So these are those elixir rotations. So you still do have an advantage with gear, but the caps are pretty damn low. I mean,
I can wear all this plus I can wear elixir of charm. It's broken. I use all those elixirs. I
yeah.
pop them in. I popped it on someone very recently, and that was their biggest complaint on popping elixirs. But it's the meta now, so
And they did on Global Labs adjust the prices, so I think they'll be a lot more accessible. It should make, making those elixirs a bit more profitable. Some of them are still sketchy, but I think we'll be able to, pre-order those a lot easier than before.
yeah, they're a bit hard to pre-order, but even right now, it's super accessible. Like what I do
Oh
to get
yeah.
them is, I just put up orders on what I'm missing, and within a week I'll get them.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I get it, I put up another order, and I never run out. I'll just permanently have them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even
But
like
yeah, I
right
mean,
now, getting them is not hard. But
I love the whole, the node system and stuff, but it feels like it's so underwhelming now. Like, not only
yes,
are the tiers so low, the rewards are
yeah,
low. I mean, we do have a pretty good participation, but then people have to go through the efforts of organizing fights and saying, okay, us 3 against you 3 and stuff. And I don't think that's how the, game was designed to be played. But that we have no choice, because if we want a good fight, that's all we can do. Otherwise, it's going to be, someone rolling the other side, and everyone's in such a low cap. It just feels like it's a clusterfuck if we don't organize it. So, having a rewarding system for PvP, I think that's going to be the play if they want to have longevity in the PvP scene, because at some point people are going to be like, why grind when I can just play capped content? Well, why even stay on the game if, node wars aren't always there? I have to wait until, 9 p.m. All right, I'll just log in for node war. It slowly
that's
slowly
that is the
starts
meme.
deteriorating.
That is the meme among the higher echelon of guilds. It's just their whole meme is imagine playing BDO. They just
Yeah.
log in to come siege and then they log off. That's it. Or they come log into Node War, then they log off. Or if they get an announcement, big PvP Yarsha, they come Zerg it, then they log off. That's like what's been happening in the higher end of the game. I think we would all agree that's super unhealthy for BDO. They're
Yeah.
missing a lot of content.
For a
So
healthy
like,
game, we need everyone. We need all sorts of players:
yes,
the casuals, the PvPers, the hardcore PvPers, the hardcore grinders, even the role players on the side. Like, it takes a full community for a live game, like a very lively game. And I think, you know, alienating certain portion of him isn't good. Like I like the Marnie change that it allows me to go and grind, but once we got the Marnie change, that was huge in its own. And some of those rotations aren't the best places, but some rotations are really good. Why go through the effort of gutting the GVGs, gutting those 5 red players experience and going completely nuclear, especially after the players already left? Like if it was like in the summer when they had the rise, when they invested so much money in uh, marketing the game and bringing everyone in, that would have made sense. But most of those players already left. At this point, it just makes no sense to me. Maybe they're panicking that they lost so many players and revenue went down or something, but I can't
Well, like
talk to
the
that.
the kind of video I wanted to make in the future was just talk about how like the MMO portion of BDO has been left alone.
Yeah. No,
Like
definitely. You should still do that, dude.
I
Absolutely.
think the solo content in the game is amazing. It's good, and the fact that I don't have to do too many dailies is also amazing. Because my play with other MMORPGs is that it's a daily fest, or you can't progress solo, and because sometimes the group isn't accessible all the time, right?
Yeah.
But BDO solves that problem already. It's like that's solved.
Yeah.
But then this is why I think BDO isn't the biggest MMO, because it's not got the other part of the game is missing, right?
Yeah.
Group content is not good. Dungeons are great. Like I literally the dungeons in the game, I love doing them. They're really fun.
They're
Problem
rewarding
is,
too, but
it's
yeah.
it's it's like the groups I have. It's 15 minutes of content. Alvia, we finish it in 50 minutes. Done.
Yeah.
Like that's like one time a week. That's not like I want to have the option to go group grind all day if that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And the fact that like that's not an option without inting my silver income compared to grinding Decky at Thornwood, right?
Yeah.
It's just an issue.
Yeah. I mean,
Right?
remember back in the old day, we had much more unique content. Like Sausins wasn't supposed to be a group grind spot, but we would grind there because, we just pull more mobs and then we'd be
Special
stronger.
deals.
Yeah, and special deals, and we would be stronger against like other groups that might, in ones and twos who try to come and grind, and then we can outnumber them. And remember, there were those. What were those super elites in the desert and stuff? The gatekeepers or something,
Oh yeah, I used to farm gatekeepers or like religiously all the time.
dude.
Gatekeepers, I think to this day were like the best content BDO's ever had in the game
And that wasn't even like a main
when they were
focus,
meta.
but it was
Yeah.
something we would all group up for and go do together.
Yeah,
And
so if for anyone who doesn't know what gatekeepers are, it's
yeah,
like they exist in the game right now, and even like right now, Pansy, they're like 600-700 mil an hour, no loose roll, which is pretty good.
oh really?
Yeah, but the way you make that work is pretty sweaty now. Like
Oh,
like you have to have like one shy in every rotation, and
mm-hmm.
you have to have like 3 characters to do it
No,
nowadays. And then the goal is you kill the 4 GKs in 20 minutes. But what's crazy is that yeah, that was literally the best content back in the day. Why? Because it was a timer based thing. You could get the GKs on every channel. There was 4 GKs a channel,
mm-hmm.
and what was hilarious is guilds would fight over this.
Yep,
Guilds were forced to interact with each other. It was PvE VP content, and it offered some of the most elite money in the game. Back then, the Seraphs were worth like 40 mil, and you would special deals that, and it was actually crazy money for everybody.
yeah.
Back then, like that was awesome money for everybody.
And the thing is, it was an organic form of content. They didn't put it in
Yes.
saying this is going to be a GVG content or PvP content. It was just it designed in a manner that it all fit together, and it
Yeah.
was fun to do. It was like, and remember back in the days when the game was smaller and we only had like 6 channels. It's like the game was you'd run into a lot more of those fights, your rivals and stuff. You'd all be grinding at similar grind spots and you'd always be coming across them. We used to come across each other at, world bosses, and we'd always be ready. Hey, Zarka's coming up. Make sure everyone's ready to PvP so everyone can go get their loot and
And
stuff
then they
and
turned
beat
off
the other
PvP at
guy.
world bosses.
It's like they slowly took away some things that, kind of defined it. Because back then, going to a world boss was a big deal because the reward was huge. Getting a box from the boss when it was so hard to pre-order something off the marketplace, it was a big deal to be there. And then on top of that, PvPing with your rivals is like it was just additional fun on top of it. I mean, let's say you
Yeah, it
didn't want
was
to PvP. Like,
It was a lot of fun back then. Our guild used to fight like Notorious a lot for Gatekeepers,
yeah,
and that was like so fun to do because there was like literal guild rivalry, but like we weren't just fighting each other. We were fighting over making money.
yeah,
Like there was a reason why we were fighting. It wasn't just I hate you, I'm fighting you. No, like we were fighting because we wanted the loot.
yeah,
And as a PvPer, that is like the best content for PvPers right there. Like, anyone who PvPs, they love that. Like there's a reason to fight for in the game. I'm not just fighting to fight you, it's because I have a reason to do it. Right?
yeah.
And now that's gone out of the game. And that hasn't
People
been back in the game for years. Like I'm talking like 5 years at this point.
people get upset when someone logs into take the Dawn boss. You know, what is that boss called from
Oh, I do
Abandoned
this all the time.
Monastery?
I grief that all the time. Listen, I see the abandoned monastery boss pop up. I go flag even after the change. I go there.
I feel like that's what it was designed for. They wouldn't have put a world notification if it wasn't for people to go fight over. Like they would have
Yeah,
just, spawned a boss on you, and you would have fought it just like a Layton's event in Kratuga. So I think more things like that kind of would be worth in the game. I think, some things to look out for and look forward to, and that would bring people into an area and actually, go at each other. And it's completely optional. You don't have to do that. And
yeah,
it's like, it's pretty out of the way. It's not harming anyone. It just pops up, and those who want to fight go in. And it's not like they're going around griefing people's rotations like at orcs, hey, DFS, and they don't even want to grind. They just want to fight you. So it's like more content like that. I think organic content which encourage PvP is missing. Like,
yeah. I think where BDO is at now is with like I saying the solo part of the game is fine. Marnie is as good for people that want to solo grind.
right.
Okay. Now I think they should do is let's focus on the parts of the game that have been left alone. So for starters, I think the first thing they should start with is life skilling, and they should start with the node system, in my opinion, because
Mm-hmm.
I used to have a node empire back in the day. Like I made a serious one. I used
Sure.
to life skill because it was optimal. It made sense to like do this
Right.
AFK, log in. But to the scale of how much money we make now, that part of the game has been entirely left untouched since launch. And if
They've
you can
made some
imagine,
updates, but it's
some
not. It
updates,
didn't
but it's not.
scale. It didn't scale.
It didn't scale at all, right? Back then, making 50 mil at Gahaz was a lot. Making 80 mil at Akhman was a lot. 300 mil an hour Akhman was a lot. Well, now we're making 2 bill an hour at Thorn. I mean, why do I life skill? There's no point. It's a waste of time for me, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's still there. There are still some nodes which, net you money. It's just in relation to percentage of money you'd earn back then versus now.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
that's the issue. It's not that it's completely gutted, and they have been improving it with the updates to workers and stuff, but it could have scaled better. And I think the scaling shouldn't have just been the direct silver value, but rather the value of the materials and what we're using it for. Because the bottlenecks that came up are like weird ones. Like I remember when Russ used to complain about nutmegs not being available in Mina. It's like nutmeg of all things. It's not even like a material like an abyssal essence
yeah,
to make a frenzy draft. Things like that should have been in nodes where you're getting it over time and turning it into something valuable. But it feels like too much trash material, and they lack the value of, you know, that you can pull in, whether it's grinding or just pulling in by active play. But, I think it's one of those things that they could balance it if it was in their crosshairs. I just don't think, I think they're patted themselves on the back with the recent changes with Line on Morning Light and workers. So, you know,
I think what would be a genius idea for BDO to do for life scaling is
what's
that
that?
innately when you look at BDO, minus the elixirs and minus like food buffs, right?
Sure.
Um, like BDO has like a locked market, right?
Sure.
But like I've played a ton of MMOs. I've played ArcAge, I've played RuneScape, I've played Final Fantasy 11 back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And like what's like really missing from BDO is that player to player trading aspect. Like I can't like help my buddy play the game. It's just sorry, bud, you got to go grind. You know what I mean? And I think that's another part missing from the game. what I think would be a really good opportunity for BDO would be to rework the life skills in the nodes in a way to where they can add a bunch more crafting items in the game that maybe affect your progression in the game, but they don't necessarily cost silver. And
Mm-hmm.
those items could be tradable too, maybe adding some value of some sort. That'd be cool to
Sure.
see. Like maybe if we can get more buffs to pop from like life scaling or anything at this point. I would
Mm-hmm.
just like to see life scaling matter more in the equation of playing the game.
Right.
Because I feel like the only thing life skill really matters for is three things. Either you're making silver, or elixirs and food buffs. Outside
Mm-hmm.
of that, what is the actual point of life skilling in BDO, and how does it affect the actual purpose of the game? Because when I play other games, life skilling is very important. You might need it to craft a certain material or
Mm-hmm.
item in the game, or an end game material, right? Maybe you got to
Sure.
craft like a new like mount or something. That doesn't really exist in BDO in a sense, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and they could probably incorporate it in some places. And just to give perspective of the other side, you know, even if someone wants to get geared and they want to progress in the game, just grinding isn't an option for everyone. So they might turn to life skills for a less intensive method. It's not pulling as much money as grinding, but it's more chill for them, or they enjoy it. They enjoy the whole art of, having a big stockpile and transforming those materials into something else. But at the end of the day, it's all just, translating into silver. There isn't anything that's so unique other than elixirs right now, and it's a pretty good buff. Elixirs are super important, but other than elixirs and just a few buffs here and there, you know, that's where it stops. Other than those differentiating factors, it's just a silver grind. Some people like to grind circles in a grind spot. Some people like to grind circles around lions or snakes and gathering them instead. And it's a personal preference, less intensity work. But at the end of the day, BDO is still all about just getting silver. And when we're just running in the hamster wheel and they're constantly pushing the goalpost past or goalpost back every year. Every year, the high end of the gear score is going up by like 30 year score. And the amount of time we have to keep running that hamster wheel, it just keeps going up and up. And to catch up is a near impossible task unless you put in like 4 or 5 hours for an entire year, very dedicated. I mean, you could get to a decent gear score. You could get to like 700, 720, but what is that in front of 750 or 760? You're still a long way off. But it
I had
feels
a
like
friend.
it's all silver. It's all silver. It's translating to.
Let me put it into perspective for because I think like what a lot of mid game players and new game they might think that like X amount of gear is a lot of gear, right?
Yeah.
Let me put it in perspective for you after the Arsha changes. I had a friend, Jody High Roller. I'm sure you've seen him.
Sure. Yeah.
He quit the game and he came back, and I helped him get a bunch of gear. He also grinds a lot. Like he grinds like maybe 10, 12 hours a day, which is not
Damn.
normal for anyone.
Yeah.
And I think he's been playing for 4 or 5 months. He's 7 like 20 gear score already. Imagine
mm.
this, right? You're grinding that much in this game. Guess what? 720 gear score right now, you're still a gearlet.
Yeah.
No, like I'm not even
It's true.
fronting. Like
It's true.
you're still gonna feel like a gearlet at 720 if you go to Arsha. Like
Yeah,
that's just the facts.
if you come across a full power Devios, even with 730, good luck.
That's not even uncommon anymore.
Yeah.
I could name a few guilds that have a lot of geared people. I mean, Show is obviously very geared. Digital has a lot of gear. Corrupt is pretty geared. Crawling Chaos is pretty geared. Then you have those small guilds too, right? Like you can fight Stray. They have a lot of geared
Yeah.
people. Black Earls that attaches on the digital geared people. If you're
Um
720, you're gonna feel like a guild to those people. You might be able to
so
kill a lot of them, but if the
someone in
core
chat's
shows up,
asking, um,
yeah,
Cam, gearlet means someone who's under geared compared to you.
yeah,
So if I'm at 710 or 712, I fight someone 650, I'll one shot them. They're gearlet in front of me.
yeah.
If it was called Gimp, okay, same thing. But yeah, go ahead, Shaky.
But yeah, I think like the solution isn't making the game easier anymore. It's just making the game more fun and more diverse.
Yeah,
Right now, it's just solo grind.
I
I
really want to
think
see them do something to PvP, man. This whole War of Roses really upset me that it's only 2 hours every 2 weeks.
I think what they should do to fix the PvP scene is make the War of the Roses the like make that the scripted, content that requires politics.
I mean, it is, right?
But they need to revamp Mode Wars and Siege in a way where you can't politics it. You can't just
Oh,
like, you know what I mean?
the thing is, they'll do it on the fly. Like back in the old days, in the old system, they weren't preparing the fights beforehand, like hours beforehand. But once the fight's there, they would see like who's there, and they'd organically do it. So I think there's still some ways they can do it, and if they want to do it, let it be. I think there should be another method for us to get, progression through PvP, because PvP in its own, I like it. It's fun.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to see, like I said, with life scaling, like it needs to mean more in the game.
Sure.
I would like to see housing. I want to see like non-instance housing in BDO. I want to see that be a thing,
Hmm.
and I want it to like be a huge deal too. Like I want it to matter for my progression somehow.
Ah, Arcage
Somehow,
fan.
right,
We used to fight over those.
right.
That
I
was
think
fun.
I think they could do that. I want to see a life skill season too, because for me, I don't want to invest the same amount of money I'm putting into my gear into a life scaling set just to make the same money.
Yeah,
I think a life scaling season would be great.
sure.
I also think having a Manos page would be good because having to swap between life skill gear
Mm-hmm.
and main gear is completely stupid.
Yeah,
And to add to that note,
sure.
there's a second problem
Fam
now
flag.
in the
We need a
game with
flag.
Arsha, right?
Sorry,
need to make a-
sorry.
Go. Yep.
Sorry, chat. I was pulling up Twitch on the side here.
Oh.
It started going off.
I
Yeah, go
think
ahead.
so. I would let that whole like life skill set. We need to
Mm-hmm.
be able to wear life scaling gear and PvP gear at the same time, or grinding gear at the same time.
Right.
Now, the other problem
Okay.
that we have right now in Arsha is that the fact that of artifacts and crystals being in the game.
Mm-hmm.
For someone to get ganked right now while they're grinding is insanely cheap. It's not even fair.
Yeah.
There is no get good. Like if you're PvEing right now and you get ganked while you're grinding, you're at an almost 100 stat disadvantage.
Sure.
So, and then swapping to your artifacts and crystals, you might get spawn killed 5 times. Just
Yeah,
doing that.
yeah.
So, this is another problem where Arsha is just becoming trash content for PvPers.
Yeah.
It's
not enough for it to be a solution. I think they definitely need to work something
Arsha
more
needs
tangible.
to be a complete rework. It can't just be grinding.
Yeah, I mean, I think an approach, I mean, just saying to go PvP, people will always gravitate to where they can progress, and not everyone would want to go for just PvP. But doing, putting in things like those, gatekeepers and following that approach, I think would be a better approach to go in revitalizing Arsha. Why not put special mobs in Arsha only? I mean,
That's what I was gonna recommend, because now we have a new problem. They're just adding in new problems over problems, right?
yeah.
So the crystals and artifact swapping is becoming an issue if you're grinding. Now the next problem is Dekia. Why in the hell would you do Dekia on Arsha? It's beyond me. Because does anyone actually understand why doing Dekia on Arsha is throwing?
Let's hear it. Let him know, Shaky.
How much does the Dekia lantern cost to fill?
You need to spend 20 right away, 20 of the durability just to summon the spawn, and then it starts decreasing like 1 a minute or something, right?
And it takes what, like 3 to 4 duo seraphs to melt to fully charge your Dekia lantern.
Let's assume it's like a mil, 1.1 mil or something.
Yeah, so if you're grinding on
point.
Arsha and you get jumped and you die and you have to respawn, right? Instantly you just lost 20 mil on top of a 5-minute wait timer.
Yep.
It's like at one point, is Arsha a PvP server anymore? I don't feel like it is.
Yeah, and I mean it's a small amount, and like
Yeah,
in the grand scheme of things, I really think something that would fit BDO would be doing a massive scale of that gatekeeper thing, and just not just like one area or one high end area, spread it across multiple areas and scale it. Let the lower geared people go here, Let the mid gear people go here. Let the high end people go fight over what's more lucrative. And if they can adjust the rewards, I think they can make something special happen with that. Or it's more organic and more to the point rather than putting us in a separate map and saying, all right, go at it. You got 2 hours, then you're off for 2 weeks.
I think Gatekeepers would be great to add to the game. Adding more, that'd be great group content that guilds would strive to do as long as the rewards are good. I don't want to see there's Dekia Thornwood and then there's Dekia Turos. I don't want to see that with the
Yeah.
GKs. I want to see it actually being good. That'd be great.
Yep. Spread them out through like all these other
Yeah.
places. Like there's so many
Add it for
places.
do it for the low end players and then do it for the mid end and then the high end. But add a lot of them to the point where it's not just like everyone's overlapping. Add enough of them, right?
Yeah. Like they'll litter the whole map with them. Like 3 or 4 in Star's End, 3 or 4 in Ash Forest, or have enough that there's a disparity in the power and the reward. So,
Yep.
the top end players will focus on the top end, the highest level gatekeepers. The mid end will go to the mid range one, and the lower end who can't even, like, you can do that by the reward, but also by the gear requirement to kill them. Let's say, the AP caps for those gatekeepers are such that, a Tuvala Timmy is not going to be able to do damage to a mid game one. I think they can balance it out if they think about it. It's those organic PvP engagements that's really missing, because for years now, and I understand why they took out the GVG, why they attacked the red players on this one, because for years people were just griefing. I mean, if people had the option to do more legitimate organic PvP where you're meant to PvP and you get rewarded for it, I'm sure most of them would do it. Some people would still go grief people, but I'm sure if people had the option and it was in the game, they would gravitate towards it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Also, like elite farming was the thing back in the day too that like they never really capitalized on.
yeah,
So back when like Kadri and Gahaz was like a lot of money, they
yeah,
still spawn actually the elites that you would kill. Back then, just killing only the elites and running back and forth was like some of the best money in the game.
yep,
Some people who weren't good at grinding Akhman or like Histria.
mm-hmm,
So like back then, this was back when like Striker wasn't a good PvE class.
sure,
A lot of them would be farming Griffins for money too back in the day.
mm-hmm,
So it's the people that couldn't really make a lot of money, they resort to elite farming.
yeah,
And nowadays, elite farming isn't really a thing. It
yeah,
almost came back with the Sawmills thing, but
yeah,
then the innate problem was it was only one thing, so everyone
mm-hmm,
went and did it, and then it crashed.
yeah,
And I think that's BDO's problem. It needs to add more diverse content.
right,
Like there shouldn't just be one way to make money solo. It shouldn't just be just grinding in a circle or life skilling in a circle.
right,
Elites would be nice. Maybe some mini bosses to go hunt. Maybe you could hunt like open world events that happen in the game. That'd be
yeah,
cool. I think like switching it up for the new player and making it different, that's like what people look for. Like if they can come in and play the game and it's like a different experience up to a certain point, they're gonna keep more players in, I think, if they do that.
yeah. Chad, I don't know why my camera froze. Sorry, thanks for calling it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, absolutely, Shaky. Like those aren't like very difficult things for them to code or anything. It's not like it's
No, it's
anything
not.
new either. It comes down to a perspective that they need to have and be willing to explore, because having that diversity and activity is what makes MMORPGs special. If we're just doing the same thing, then we just turn into, any other multiplayer game that's like just a
Yeah.
game mode and just go through the same thing until you get bored of it and then quit.
I really think BDO is it's definitely like in the best state it's been in.
Absolutely.
And right now they should take a seat and go like, okay, we've fixed a lot of the quality of life. We've added progression, like anyone can progress now.
Right.
Let's start touching up the MMO part of the game. They could start
Yep.
with life skilling, start with nodes, fix it all up. Let us equip the life skilling gear with us at the same time, right? Make it matter more. Like touch up
Mm-hmm.
on housing, make housing matter more. Make all of it just like impact the game on a larger scale.
Yeah.
Then they could go to PvE. Okay, right now our PvE is only solo. Okay, let's add some bossing, some more group content, make it more valuable, right?
Mm-hmm.
let's add some guild content to the game. Let's add more dungeons. Let's add some raids into the game,
Mm-hmm.
and then make it into a way where it's not like outshadowing the solo part of the game too.
Just maybe like 20-30%. Enough that there is
Yeah,
the benefit, but not so much that that's the only way to play it. Absolutely.
yeah. Um, I think those few things would be amazing to fix the game. And then when they do
Absolutely.
all that, then look at PvP. Make PvP an activity that's rewarding in BDO is what they should
Sure.
do. Um, Now, whether that requires to revamp Arsha and adding more Arsha servers, cool. But something should happen because a lot of the top MMOs they offer PvP as a progression. Like WoW does
Yeah.
it, RuneScape does it, ESO does it.
Yep.
A lot of games have it, and BDO is missing that. And I think for a game with this combat, it makes no sense.
It's about being, having the freedom to do what you enjoy. Like, this is a video game. You should come in and, do what we find fun and not be punished for it, because it's like, oh, if you're PvPing, you're not progressing the gear, but it takes 1,000 hours to get to hard cap, so you're losing out. So then it's like we're forced to go grind in circles for hours and hours and hours in order to go do what we love. And it's like, yeah, after you do it, then you're done. You can enjoy PvP. Buddy, you want me to run through 300 to 500 hours just so I can get started with that? And it's like, oh, go do capped content. Then we're back in the circle of what's the point of getting the gear then if we're just doing capped content? It's like, I think there are easy things they can do, Shaky, that it just comes down to perspective. I think we as a community need to be loud about it and keep talking about these things and, be heard and post on the forums, guys. I'm telling you, they look at the forum suggestions. I know they're slow to make changes and sometimes some things don't go through, but that's the only way for us to get heard. And make sure you guys do share your opinions and stuff. Even if you completely
I
disagree with us,
I don't know if
absolutely
they even
fine.
listen to the forum
Not like
suggestions
100%. Like they do
because
take some stuff there. It's not that they take everything, but unfortunately that's the only direct way to get to them.
yeah, because whether the community wants to agree or if the PV side wants to moan, objectively and factually, the outcry on the forums was don't put the GVG changes on NA,
Yeah.
and then they did it anyways. Because if I remember, Johnny Five's post had 4K upvotes and
Yeah.
2K downvotes,
Yep.
and they still put it in the game. So
That's the thing. It's like
I don't know how much they listen to our feedback, and
that's the
that's
thing.
and that is the one reason why I don't like talking about this stuff anymore
Yeah.
because
But
it's
still,
I could have been doing something more intuitive,
yeah.
than talking about why change something in BDO when the producer of BDO is most likely on some yacht saying, "Oh fuck this, I don't care." You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the point?
We still got to try, as content creators,
Like,
talking about it
bro,
is also
I'm over here PvPing and there's a dude desyncing in front of me, and this guy's on a yacht. Why am I molding? I should just chill
yeah.
out and go do something else.
Yeah, I understand. I absolutely understand. It's one of those things like, whatever we do at the end of the day, it comes down to PA and their perspective. Like many times I could never
Yeah.
predict what PA does. Recently I made one prediction and it came through, but 99% of the times it's completely off because they're in some complete different track, and uh you know their thinking is different. Their ideas and perspective is different from ours. Maybe we don't have the information they do, or maybe they're too tunnel visioned in their own goals and what they want the game to be. Because it's not just about what the developer wants now, it's the community that gives the game life. So hopefully we can find some overlap in the future, and hopefully the newer changes keep rolling in and change the game for the better.
I literally just play BDO, and it's a waiting room for me right now. Like, I don't care to talk about balance changes or anything anymore. I just play the game and have fun, and whatever comes out comes out. If it doesn't,
Yep.
oh well. That's where I'm at with BDO right now.
I hear you, dude.
Because
But man,
I personally don't think they'll listen.
we just gotta hope that what they want for the game is also what makes the game better, and is what we want as well. But
Yeah,
dude, listen, that's
I've been hoping for 6 years. Do you know what it feels like, dude? I'm not
Uh,
waiting anymore.
anyway, man.
Let's be real. Every MMO is going to be pretty bad that comes out so far. I mean, it's happened so many times. How many
Yeah.
games died to BDO already? Let's
The thing
see.
is,
Allion died to BDO. Allion was trash.
that Elion was like
It was
killed.
it was
Like,
it was trash.
listen, it was already
It's-
bad in pay to win on Korea, and Korean players didn't want to play it because it's too pay to win. And then when they brought it here, they reduced the pay to win a little, and then it's like, oh, that's good. It's not as bad as Korea. Just because it's not as bad as in Korea doesn't mean it's good either. It was still
then
pretty bad.
what did we have? We had Arcade Unchained. Arcade Unchained was actually fun for 2 weeks.
Yeah, yeah,
Then it was Daily Age, and it became cringe, so we all quit.
yeah,
What else? Lost Ark was cool if you were a PvEer. I think it was a
yeah,
good game. Then that game died off eventually too.
yep.
So BDO's the last hope. Barely too, in my opinion.
At
Barely.
least in BDO's case, that and New World also came and went, but New World's making a resurgence, and they maintain their player base. But the thing about any MMORPG is they need to have the backing of a developer who wants to continually improve the game. They have to be able to admit and say, "Hey, we made a mistake. We're gonna fix it." And a lot of MMORPGs don't get that luxury.
New World is
Guild Wars 2 was before BDO. It's been around since before
yeah,
BDO.
New World's only on Steam, right? There's no client.
Yeah.
Yeah, that game's pretty dead too. It's like 60K players.
60K compared to us. Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure BDO has 2 to 300K total. 'Cause you have to,
Across all regions, sure.
yeah,
Across all
you gotta
regions.
count
Yeah.
all their regions.
Sure, sure, sure. All right. Dude, though, I think our conversation really highlighted some of the shocking state of the BDO. I think we covered a lot of good stuff, man.
Yeah, good stuff that'll never be heard.
We can hope. We can hope.
Uh,
All right, dude. It was a pleasure, man. I think this is the first time a lot of people in my chat got to hear you actually talk about it. You and me talk every now and then, so I know I hear your theory crafting and your thoughts about the game, but I don't think they ever actually heard you articulate it over a long form format,
No, it's been a long time since I've done that.
Dude,
I've
definitely
been
put those videos out, man.
I've just been too busy, Drew. I've been so
I hear
busy.
ya. I hear
Yeah.
ya.
But
All right, man.
yeah, everything sounds good.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. Once again, guys, that's Shakybay. You guys probably saw him on YouTube and stuff. Let me give a quick shout out on Twitch. Be sure to follow him. Let me actually find the link. Hold on.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me on, dude.
Dude, thanks for joining. I think it was a pretty solid conversation we had, and we got to cover a lot of important topics that actually need to be, voiced out on YouTube and stuff.
Yeah, I think that was a better shocking state. The real shocking state is that there's no group content in the game. PvP content in the game.
Very
That is
little
the
group
shocking
content.
state.
Yeah.
That
Well,
is what BDO is in need of.
we'll see. We'll see if they can come through for us in the future.
Hopefully.
All right, dude. Until next time. Take
All
it
right,
easy.
man, take it easy.
Appreciate you. See ya. All right, chat. Sorry for the audio and stuff. I'm like in between looking around at stuff and making sure it was still working as intended, but really apologize for that. I'm going to keep fine tuning my setup. But once again, that was Shakybay. I know he's got a very infamous reputation, but he is a very passionate person about the game. Like, he really does like the game. And he works pretty hard on trying to gear up and stuff, but I think he's always had the same issue like as me. I'm like, I want to go do something that's really fun in the game, that's PvP, but every time I do it, I'm not making money here. So my gear never gets up. But he's actually geared up. He's probably the same gear score as me, if not a little bit ahead now. But definitely check him out sometime on YouTube and on Twitch.